Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is the men's 2021 Olympic road race. Now, Belgium is the team. They're the favorite. There's no doubt about it. Wout van Aert is a legend. He just got done winning on the Champs, the time trial the day before that at the Tour de France, and he won Mount Ventoux. So today's stage, 5,000 meters of climbing, 235 kilometers, about 145 miles in length. Two good climbs I want to focus on though. Mount Fuji, about 15 kilometers, summiting about 90 kilometers from the finish of today's stage, and Mikuni. Mikuni is 6 kilometers long, and it's going to be over 11% and summiting 33 kilometers from the finish. So if you're the Belgian team and you have Wout van Aert as your number one guy on the team, and we all know he is, you got to believe you got to get him to the climb and get him over the climb and down to the finish. Now, when you're in the meeting for the Belgium team, you can come to a field sprint with every rider in this race, and you can add whatever pros you want, because we all know Wout van Aert can win the sprint if you get him to the finish line. Now the problem is, how do you get him there with 5 guys? Right away the race starts, and there's 8 guys that go up the road. They give them almost 20 minutes in time. Belgium team run Greg van Avermaet. He's the last Olympic road race champion from 5 years ago, and he's on the front because Wout van Aert is his leader. This is fabulous tactic. I'm behind it 100%. For the Slovenian teams, they have Tadej Pogačar, Primož Roglič. Tadej Pogačar just got done winning the Tour de France, so they're riding on the front Jan Tratnik. Those 2 riders will control the 8 guys up the road, and they'll slowly bring the gap back down. Jan Tratnik for Slovenia is riding absolutely out of his pants. I mean, he is an amazing rider on what he's going to do on today's stage. Now, when they hit Mount Fuji is when things get exciting. Greg van Avermaet will drop off after doing a ton of work. Well-deserved, good rider Greg. This is when the Belgium team starts falling apart a little bit shortly after this climb. Going up the climb, Jan Tratnik is fabulous. And then it's Ciccone for the Italian team throwing in the first big effort. Not an attack, just a big effort on the front of the peloton to try to make the peloton smaller, make it harder. And I bet hoping to drop Jan Tratnik so Slovenia is left a little bit more isolated for their 2 race leaders. I don't like this tactic. I prefer you just attack if you're the Italian team, try to get a gap, and then Jan Tratnik still has to chase until he blows. But I'm not really against it, so the Italian team's on the front. They'll try to get rid of Jan Tratnik. They won't, because he's riding fabulous. I already told you that. He comes back on the descent, and he gets back on the front and starts pulling. Now, when they get down to the bottom of Mount Fuji, this is when things get exciting with about 55 kilometers to go, and when the Belgium team really start to lose it. Now remember, there's no race radios when we're talking about the Olympic men's road race. They're not allowed to use radios, so all the communication has to be done amongst the 5 riders up there. Greg van Avermaet was the veteran in that group, but he's been dropped. Now you're left with Tish Benoot, Remco Evenepoel, Van Savenot, young kid, and of course Wout himself, who doesn't carry much age. Everybody in this group of the Belgium team is pretty young now. So when the attacks start coming, they make another mistake. Instead of just riding the front, they have about 15 kilometers. We're about 55 kilometers to go from the finish line into this race. You only got to get Wout to that climb and then start pacing him up the climb. Now the problem is they're covering attacks. And they're covering with all the domestiques left with Wout. So Tish Benoot's covering attack. That starts putting nails in his legs. Remco Evenepoel not only covering attacks, he's making attacks. I can't imagine in the Belgium meeting before the race that they said, hey guys, we're going to pull the field all day. We want you to cover attacks. We want you to ride up the climbs. And then we want you to make attacks, and your name's not Wout van Aert. So Remco Evenepoel is putting in a big attack. He'll spend almost 4 kilometers with Vincenzo Nibali and Eddie Dunbar. Those 3 will work together, but every pull that Remco Evenepoel is taking is putting more nails into his leg. And the problem is they have a steep climb, 11% for 6 kilometers. They got to get riders over that climb in order to get Wout van Aert down to the finish. They're not thinking about that. They're doing damage control right at that moment. Now, with 55 kilometers to go, remember, you have the Slovenian team who's already been riding on the front. Jan Tratnik has been amazing. There was no reason to cover attacks. I understand the philosophy. If you cover attacks, you don't have to chase. But what people don't understand, this is not Star Trek. This is not Commander Kirk beaming you down to planet Earth with zero effort. Every time a rider has to cover attack, it is putting big efforts and big nails into the legs of the riders that are having to make those moves and make those accelerations. A better tactic if you're the Belgian team. Slovenian team's already riding with Jan Tratnik. Continue to ride with Jan Tratnik with one rider. Control it till you go into the climb, and then have teammates with fresh legs, as fresh as one can be this far into Olympic road race, to take Wout van Aert up the climb. They don't. They choose to cover attacks with all three of their domestiques left. That'll tire the guys out. When they get on the race course, the French team will ride the front for the next 4 kilometers. What reason? I have no idea, but they'll pull Wout van Aert behind. The Italian team will set up a tactic of driving the train into the final climb. When they do, again, you're pulling Wout van Aert. Jan Tratnik has done a fabulous job. Not only has he pulled all day long, but now he's taken his leaders to the start of the final, most crucial climb of today's race, with his leaders on his wheels starting at the front. Now behind, Thijs Benoot's doing a great job. He's pulling Wout van Aert up to the start of the climb, right at the front. Remco Evenepoel did nothing. He dropped off. He couldn't do a pull. So back at 53 kilometers to go, when he's riding and attacking at 53 to go, 52 to go, 51 to go, 50K to go, 49K to go when he finally got caught, all that time he spent riding there, he could have now used at the beginning and through the duration of this final, crucial, most important section of this whole race. Instead, Remco Evenepoel is gone. The second problem for the Belgium team, Thijs Benoot is setting too hard of a tempo on the front of the group. At this point in time, you have Wout van Aert on your team. The group is easily under 50 guys now. Thijs Benoot is blazing a path up the climb. The only problem is his legs are blowing up. Once his legs blow up about 2 kilometers into it, Van Savenot is the next to get on the front, and he is the last of the domestiques left to help Wout van Aert. When I'm sitting on the couch, I know it's panic time because you look at the technique there of Van Savenot, you got to believe he cannot go all the way to the top of the climb. Instead of backing off and setting a smooth tempo so that when the attacks come, you can do that first acceleration for Wout to put the hurt into everyone and keep your leader safe and secure on the draft position. Van Savenot is going 100% on the climb. When you have a sprinter, you do not have to go 100% on the climb. You just need to go fast enough to keep it together for your leader to go over the climb and get him to the finish. Van Savenot blows about 800 meters into his pool when Tadej Pogačar attacks. Brandon McNulty goes with him. Michael Woods attaches on, and the three are getting a gap. Wout van Aert is on the back, and he's setting tempo now for all of the favorites on his wheel. Carapaz, third at this year's Tour de France, is glued onto his wheel until he launches an attack and goes across to the 3 leaders. He'll bring with him Rigoberto Urán, Alberto Bettiol, and Michael Kwiatkowski. The group of 4 will bridge up to the 3 leaders, and Wout van Aert, again back there in the win on his own, he will close the gap with Bach Mollema, David Gaudu, and they'll go over the top with about a dirty dozen. Last guy to attach, Jakob Fuglsang, will do a good job of getting up to the leaders with just about 500-600 meters before the summit of the climb. 300 meters before the climb summits, Michael Woods will take off in a solo bid to win gold at today's Olympic road race. He'll go over the top. This was the scenario, best case scenario Wout van Aert could have had. One guy going over the top solo, 33 kilometers to the line. Now, no one is going to work with Wout van Aert. They already screwed up the tactics back there at 55 kilometers to go when they were covering attacks and making attacks and then blowing up on the climb because they pulled too hard. Now they're going over the top of the summit with only Wout van Aert there. The only tactic he has left, the best tactic that you can employ at this point in the race after already those crucial mistakes, Wout needed to let Woods go solo. Let Woods go, gain a minute and a half, and force the other guys in the group with him to work with him. Instead, he'll pull Michael Woods back, and then what's going to happen? When I'm sitting on the couch, as soon as he pulls Woods back, I'm like, better look left or right, because you know another attack's coming. Bam! Another attack comes. Who pulls it back? Wout van Aert will pull it back. The next attack goes, who pulls it back? Wout van Aert pulls it back. Then Jakob Fuglsang throws in an attack. And remember, Jakob Fuglsang was the one hurting the most out of this Dirty Dozen, and he'll take off. And then who pulls back Jakob Fuglsang? Wout van Aert, of course, because he's doing everything. At this point in moment, again, there's only one tactic that you can do when you're Wout van Aert. You have to force the other guys to work with you. Instead, every time he pulls the attack back, another attack goes and he pulls that back. Finally, 25 kilometers to go. It's the American Brandon McNulty and the Ecuadorian Richard Carapaz going up the road. They get an instant gap, and their gap's up to about 45 seconds. Nobody wants to work with Wout van Aert as they're attacking him left and right. Finally, he gets a little cohesion back there, and they start working together with about under 10 kilometers to go. The gap, like I said, 45 seconds. Wout van Aert hits a little bump in the road, and it's only 500 meters, and he's going so strong. He brings that gap back to about 15 seconds. Richard Carapaz, when he looks back, he can see the group coming. They're within sight. Wout van Aert has done a great job. The only problem is no one can pull through with him. He'll look back at the top of that last little climb, and it's David Gaudu, and he can't pull through. Wout van Aert stuck on the front. The gap extends out a little bit further to go with about 6K when Richard Carapaz accelerates just a tiny bit on the pedals and drops the American Brandon McNulty. While Carapaz is passing McNulty on the right, McNulty's looking back over the left because he knows he can't follow the move with Carapaz, and so he's checking to see the gap to the favorites behind, but he's not going to be able to hold them off. They'll absorb McNulty before the top of that bump, and then Carapaz accelerating on the pedals all the way to the line to take gold at this year's Olympic road race. Behind with 300 meters to go, Wout van Aert leads out the sprint, barely beaten Tadej Pogacar, who gets third for bronze medal of today's race. Wout van Aert, you were exceptional. You deserved gold, but your tactics of your Belgian team and yourself only delivered you a silver. I know you guys are young, but you're going to have to learn. You cannot ride from 40K all the way to the finish with this much talent sitting on your wheel. Many times throughout the classics, you lost the exact same way. There's no way that you can pull, guys, for 33 kilometers all the way downhill into the finish and expect to win. Carapaz, who was brilliant, he sat on Wout van Aert's wheel going up the climb, jumped him to go to the favorites, waited till the timing was perfect. McNulty threw an attack. Richard Carapaz covered it, dropped him with 6 kilometers to go, and took a magical gold victory on today's men's Olympic road race. Fabulous day of racing. Congratulations to everyone. Belgian team, you guys just looked fabulous up until 55 kilometers to go when everything completely fell apart tactically. Hope you guys like my take on the butterfly effect. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon.